All right, welcome back to the American Blues Podcast. After a long, nice summer break, we are back. Chelsea preseason first game, Chelsea versus Wrexham. Let's talk about it. Man, it is nice to have Chelsea stuff to really talk about again. You know, I kind of stay away from wanting to make videos about the transfer season because there's just too many rumors flying around every single day. Honestly, I'm pretty busy with work, and I like to kind of just wait and see when the transfer news all shakes out to see exactly what players we have, what players we don't have, and then I think it makes sense to talk more about them and then talk more about them after we see them in action. But first of all, I do want to talk about our experience at the Euros real quick. It was incredible. We were lucky enough to go to the Italy versus Switzerland round of 16 game in Berlin. And man, like I gotta say, there's no American sport that matches that kind of atmosphere. I've never seen that before. And I've been to multiple different types of professional games in the States, whether it's from college football to professional sports here, but just like the passion, the chants, like man, it was something else. And my wife and I had quite a memorable experience. So thank you for that, Euros. And we're obviously both very thankful for being able to go there. But, you know, at the end of the day, England didn't win. That was a big shame, but what can you do? The wait goes on. But I do think the next England generation are very good still. And I think they have a solid chance to stay at the top. It just depends on who they get as a manager next. But, of course, we're not here to talk about England. Let's get to Chelsea. You know, first game between Chelsea and Wrexham. Number one, let's get out of the way. I know a lot of people are going to watch that game and be like, man, we look terrible. We look slow. Maresca ball is doubtful. No, I'm not going to go there. We've had 3 weeks of preseason. Some of the most important players on the team aren't even with the squad right now. They just flew to the US the night before, jet lag. I'm not going to blame the players for looking slow and out of it and rusty because that's what a lot of them are. They're rusty. They need preseason to get back into shape. I do want to highlight the positives that I saw from the game. So number one, start with the formation. Not a big surprise. In possession, we were a 3 at the back with an inverted 2 in the middle, and then kind of like a 5 up front. I really want to talk about the first half, actually, because I think the first half really shows the players that Maresca is actually interested in. In the second half, he was just given time to some of the more periphery players, and you could tell just by how disjointed they were. So first half, we had Sanchez in goal. Then you had Colwill, Badiashile, Tosin, James. And then you had Lavia, Carney, Nkunku, Guiu, and then Madueke on the right, and then Tyreek George on the left. So overall, what did I think of the first half? I mean, again, players looked rusty. There was a lot of just back and forth between the back three and going into midfield between Reece and Lavia, and then there was just no connection between them in the front of the field. That's fine. Look, first preseason game, brand new system, brand new manager. It's going to take time. What I do want to point out are the players that before this game started, I was really curious about. Mainly that's Guiu up front. I think this is potentially a fantastic signing, and I do not want to see this kid go on loan. Obviously, it's hard to judge after just one game. I don't think he actually had a shot on goal, but from what I see, his hold-up play was really good. His link-up play, not bad. I think he had one loose pass early in the game, and then basically every time that he got the ball with his back to goal, he was able to pass it off and keep the play going. That was really good to see. He was making really good runs behind the defense, and sometimes the balls would come to him, sometimes they were a little overhit. Again, kind of rusty. That's fine. But yeah, overall, I was very impressed. He has speed, he has pace, he has strength. Next game, I want to see him start again. I want to see what his shot power, accuracy, all those things are, because, you know, one of the biggest things that we've heard about him is that he is incredibly clinical at finishing, and I want to see more of that. But I think he's potentially a fantastic signing. Again, I do not want him to go on loan. I do think we need a striker up front, especially with just how poor Broja looked the second half. Look, Broja is not staying at the club, and if he is, I don't think he's getting anywhere near the first team. He's probably going to just train with the under 21s. So hopefully he gets sold. I don't think I would even be too happy with him going on loan, because none of his loans have worked out well. I think unfortunately, it's just one of those where he was so promising, horrible injury, and he just needs to find a new place that is willing to give him the time and space to develop back into the player that he potentially once was. And that's not a knock against him. It's just, it is what it is. These things happen in the sport. Another player that looked really lively was Tyreek George on the left, our 18-year-old academy player. Honestly, from what I see today, I already see more positional discipline and knowing what to do with the ball than Mudryk did throughout the entirety of the last year and a half. I will say he does look raw. He's young, but the difference between him and Madueke, where Madueke is just going to take on his man time after time after time, but then he'll kind of falter in that last third where he's always either a little bit too selfish or he doesn't make the right cross. And that's where his immaturity and inexperience kind of comes. Tyreek kind of seems a little bit more calmer on the ball. Sometimes he knows when to take on the man. Sometimes he'll just sit back and see, is there a cross? Is there something else I should be doing? So I do want to see more of him this preseason too. Do I think he's actually going to get a start in the first team? Probably not, because second half, Sterling did look much better than him. Starting just has more experience, and it's hard to, replace that experience. But I think Tyreek George is definitely a really good one to watch for the future. Another big, essentially, it's like having a new signing, is Romeo Lavia. I've heard so many people talk about just how good Romeo Lavia is, how excited to see him. And I've been one of those too. I haven't really seen him for the past year because he's just been injured. I think he got 36 minutes last season total. So it was really good to see him in the center field, comfortable. Obviously, he looked rusty too. He and Reece James didn't look like they knew exactly what to do with each other in the partnership. There was a lot of Reece running back and forth, asking for the ball. He wouldn't get it. And then again, there's just a lot of sideways passing between the defense out into these two, and then they would pass it immediately back. So I think that's definitely something that needs to be worked on over time. Another interesting one that I saw is Tosin. One of my favorite things from yesterday was his long range passing. Every time he gets the ball, he picks his head up, he looks up. He doesn't just go for the simple pass. He's the one that was hitting long balls to Guiu. Sometimes they would go, sometimes they wouldn't. But I like that vision and the attempt. I think that's really important for at least one of our defenders to have the comfort to make those longer passes instead of only looking for short passes towards each other. Another big positive is Nkunku. It is so good to see him fit. This is kind of how he was last season in preseason. I was like, oh man, this player is going to be amazing for us this season. And then of course, all those injuries hit. So hopefully he can stay healthy this season. Like Maresca said, I think he can play any position up front. And I think that actual partnership between Nkunku and Guiu was very interesting. Guiu's more of that traditional target man, big, fast, strong striker, whereas Nkunku can just kind of pop up anywhere. And it was a really good finish, even though it was lucky. The ball kind of bounced around the box after Tyreek hit it. But Nkunku still found the ball and was able to hit it into the corner. So that's always good to see, build up his confidence. Just, my God, please stay healthy this year. Another big one was Gusto. As much as I love seeing James back on the field, he does look a little cautious, a little rusty still, but Gusto, man, he looks like he has not taken a summer break. He is just as athletic, energetic. He knows how to drive with the ball. It seems like this inverted role is just built for him, even more than how Cucurella looked at the end of the season last year. Now, I'd be really curious when Cucurella comes back with the team to see how he does as the inverted side, but I really like what I saw from Gusto yesterday. There were several loose touches and loose passing in the final third. Again, it's the first game of preseason. I'm not going to be too harsh on any player for that. And then finally, I was a little bit surprised by this, but Ugochukwu looks really fit. He actually looks like he put on a little bit of weight. He looks a little bit more athletic, stronger. He was also very good at driving with the ball. He made several really good passes, key drives. Yeah. So that one was a big surprise. Now I'm a little bit concerned about him going out on loan because of how he looked. Now, I don't want to jump to conclusions. Like I said, it's just been one game, but from what I saw yesterday, he was lively. And I think he looked better than Carney did. I really like Carney. I think it's such a shame that he got such a bad injury last year that kept him out. I think he's got a really nice touch. He can bend the ball. He's got a shot on him, which is something that a lot of our midfielders don't, such as Gallagher. But yesterday he did look rusty. I will say Carney looked a little bit rusty, but I'm glad he got to play the full 90 minutes, it seemed. It was kind of interesting that he was the only player that was left on across both halves. I'm not sure what that says. I think overall, I do not think he starts ahead of Kieran Dewsbury Hall, just because Hall knows Maresca. He knows the system. I'm excited to see him with the team too, so we'll see. And then yesterday there was no Hall, and then there was no Mudryk. So I'm wondering, maybe I missed something. Are they injured? Are they just not integrated with the team yet? So we'll see what the next game on Saturday brings. Hopefully, if they are fit, I'd love to see them play and see how they work into this team and see exactly how much Maresca's influence has had on Mudryk already in terms of his positional play. Because I think if Mudryk can understand the game better, he is a fantastic talent. But his biggest crutch is he's just about 10 seconds behind everybody else on the pitch, and he usually just runs around with his head cut off. Now, let's talk about the negatives. I'm going to be very brief. It's just we are very slow in possession. Very, very slow and built up. I understand Wrexham didn't really press. They just sat back with their 5-4-1 defense. But still, the way to break that down is not to just stand on the ball and have absolutely no movement in front of you. That is I do not want to see that kind of football going forward. Like I said, it's early preseason. Hopefully, as the weeks go on, they'll learn a little bit better patterns of play, a little bit better in terms of how to progress that ball up the field. And of course, as always, as the rust kind of goes away and people get into better shape and more ready to get to playing fitness, that final third decision making will be better too. And the other big negative was just how easily our midfield and defense were cut apart by quick counters. Both goals we gave up were very preventable. They were easy mistakes, giving the ball away in a terrible position, whether it's by a defender like Achepon for the second goal, or I think it was Santos for the first goal, but don't quote me on that. But losing a ball in the middle of the field. And then, of course, our midfield is not tracking back. And then our defense, you can tell that the first three had a little bit more experience playing together. They were still, the line wasn't really kept. There were still offsides things that they should have kept the offsides line, but didn't. But man, the second half between Fofana, Achepong, and Chilwell, those three were just not communicating whatsoever. There was no line. Whenever we lost the ball, all three were completely in different positions. Chilwell was repeatedly marking two players on the far post. Made no sense. The whole defense was shifted too much to the right. It left the left side just wide open time and time and time again. And honestly, we should have lost that game probably by another 1 or 2 goals. So again, first game preseason, clearly these players need time to gel together. But that stuff needs to be figured out over time. So hopefully by the end of preseason, we see a little bit better in terms of defensive organization. But yeah, overall, I think first game, it's totally fine. Brand new manager. There's several players that are very exciting to see. And my most important thing from this match is, honestly, I want more Guiu. I want him to play more. I don't really want to see Broy on the pitch. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault. It's just Guiu. It looks every bit the player that I've been told that he is by my Barcelona friends. And I just want to see more of it. So on to the next game. Very exciting. I love that Chelsea season is back on. So see you after Saturday. Peace.